Welcome to the Cloud Accounting Podcast, a show for accountants and bookkeepers using cloud technology to make their jobs more strategic and impactful. I'm Blake Oliver.
And I'm David Leary.
So David, how was your week off?
Week off? It was good. I basically drove across New York State. I started in Buffalo, went up to Niagara Falls, went to the Albany area, and then drove the rest of the way to New York City and flew out of New York City. So I followed the whole Erie Canal, essentially. I took a boat tour. I was in the Erie Canal. I took a little riverboat historical tour. I visited Frank Lloyd Wright House. So I really checked out. And I know a lot. The world kept going on, but I really tried to avoid, checking into anything too much.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you took a week off, but while you were gone, some earth-shattering news dropped in the world of accounting technology. Stephen Kelly was ousted as the Sage CEO.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oust is a strong word. It's interesting that they led with that on the...
Well, yeah, unlike Rod Drury of Xero and
Brad Smith
of Intuit, Stephen Kelly was forced out. He did not voluntarily leave on his own accord. He was unceremoniously dumped overnight by the board. One thing that struck me in all the stories that came out about this is the chairman of the board of Sage Group saying that we need a CEO who has SaaS in his veins. So clearly, after 4 years, the board is not happy with the progress that Sage has made moving from desktop on-premises applications into the cloud. I think they're feeling a lot of pressure from Xero, especially in the UK, on their smaller segment of the market they serve. I mean, it's tough for them, right? They make ERP products. They're the third largest ERP seller in the world after Oracle and SAP, but they also have products that are for small businesses. And they're just having a really, really hard time making the leap.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to do everything, right? And I remember so this had to be 2015 at Sleater Conference. I think it was still called Sleater Conference then, which is now the Accountex USA. And they in his keynote, they're talking about all the stuff Sage is going to do. They're going to go SaaS. They're going to have apps. They're going to have 1,000 apps on their marketplace and all this type of stuff. And it was kind of Intuit's line in the sand, November of 2013, like 2 years. So they're kind of at the party 2 years late, a little bit there. But they also trying to do too much. Like when we declared that was the future, I'm still saying we sometimes about Intuit, but when Intuit declared that as the future, right? They really cut back. Like, hey, QuickBooks Online's one product's the priority.
Right.
And Sage has 7 products. And then in the meantime, also in this time, they bought Intacct, right? So they do have an amazing SaaS product for enterprise, but it's really hard to do everything for all the spaces at once. And we talked about this with Matt Paff a couple weeks ago, I think, as well.
Yep, we did. And the Sage Intacct, or the Intacct acquisition, was a good move for Sage, and the stock price rallied after that. But like the big failure was I never tried it, so I'm not sure what it actually looks like, but they tried building their own cloud product very quickly for small businesses to compete with Xero and QuickBooks Online. And it was, I guess, considered a failure, right? And then they also did some weird things, like they tried to take their desktop software and make it like a subscription-based pricing model. So that, like, imagine QuickBooks Desktop and having to pay for it monthly. And
Intuit does that, actually.
Right.
I think Intuit, for sure they do that.
But that's optional, right? Like, and I think Sage started forcing people onto the subscription plan, and it did not go over well. They raised their prices at the same time. They were trying to compete with Xero. So, like, definitely a lot of issues at the company. And something like 30 executives turned over under Kelly's management. So, like, senior executives. And that's, obviously scary for the board, right?
Yeah, I think that was his mandate, right? When they even said to in the article, like, he was going to shake the company up.
Right. Maybe it was more than they could handle.
Yeah. But it's big news. I mean, this is now, we were talking about the, this transition from cloud accounting 1.0 to cloud accounting 2.0. So now you have Rod Drury, Brad Smith, and now Stephen Kelly. So all three, the CEOs are no longer in the space.
Yep.
Right. And so I think I tweeted, like, we can officially call an end to cloud accounting 1.0. We are now in the next phase of this. I think you mentioned quickly, you had some article that kind of even reinforces that even more, right?
So I've got this article that I read in Accounting Web called Why Technology Won't Hurt Client Relationships by Deanna Ortega. A lot of stats in here that are really interesting, stuff that's going to be familiar to anyone who's been doing cloud for a while. But one stat in particular stuck out to me, and it's that employees in firms that provide complex business advisory services as opposed to just compliance, they spend about 8 hours each month educating themselves about new business apps, which is double the amount of time that employees at compliance-focused firms spend looking and educating themselves about new apps. So 8 hours versus 4 hours, that's a pretty dramatic difference.
And I imagine the amount of training that the effort they're putting in is also different. I've done some webinars on like CPA Academy, and you know if they're from big firms or if they're from tax or if they're doing client advisory services and small business type stuff. Mm-hmm. And you can tell because the way they answer the survey questions, because you'll pop surveys like, do you have any small business clients? And there's like, no. And it's almost where they're just taking these classes. They are taking training, but they're almost just taking it to quickly get the CPE credit. Yep. Right. So even though the time, I think that the ratio maybe even be understated some.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure in the most cloud focused firms, it's quite a lot of time. It could be way more than 1 day a month.
And so what do you think drives that? Are accountants and bookkeepers that do client advisory services, is it all about them just constantly trying to be more efficient, automated processes, stop at that manual data entry? Is that kind of what's driving that? Or is it just, there's so many new apps, they just can't keep up.
No,
they have to keep up.
I think it's the second thing. There are so many new features coming out all the time from cloud accounting apps. Case in point is Xero just had their XeroCon I think this was in Brisbane, which is one of the big ones where they have thousands of people attending. And they just announced a ton of new features. And so if you're using Xero for accounting, you'd better learn about these things, right? And it's quite a lot. I'll go through the list for you. So
definitely,
they've got it's interesting. A lot of the new features in Xero are expanding beyond just the core accounting and into more document management or working with clients. This is along the lines of Xero's announcement that they are no longer an accounting solution; they are a business solution, right? So
it's interesting because their mantra forever was, "We're just a GL."
Yeah, well, it was
right. Wasn't that kind of thing
for a long
time?
Beautiful accounting software, right?
Yep.
And now it's beautiful business software is where they're going. So,
got it.
So here's the new features. So they've got this new quote files required unquote feature, which allows advisors to identify and collect client documents in one place. It's pretty cool. So instead of emailing, I haven't seen how this works, but I'm assuming instead of emailing a client asking for a file, you can do that from within Xero. They are going to be creating a more intuitive invoicing experience, making it easier to invoice customers. So they're rewriting their invoicing module. This one's exciting. Xero email to bills. So this expands on their existing machine learning feature, which in Xero. And so if you have a bill from a supplier and you forward that to an email address, Xero will automatically extract and populate the details from that PDF file into a bill in Xero. So this is very similar, right, to the HubDoc functionality.
Yeah, I mean, that's really similar to, half a dozen apps, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can do that with Bill.com. You can do that with a couple different apps where you can send the bill and then they'll just extract the data and shove that into, it's just that they're building that straight into the accounting system.
Yeah, and so it's not going to be groundbreaking for accountants and bookkeepers because if you're in the cloud, you're probably already using an app that does this, like say HubDoc, which Xero also just acquired, interestingly. So I think this will be more of an impact for the business owners who are doing this themselves, right? So I don't have to go out as a business owner and try to find some special app that will do the data entry for me because I'm probably not going to take that effort. But now I've got this functionality in Xero.
And I've always felt like at a base level, the accounting systems are going to do some basic level of what apps do, right? Mm-hmm. Like QuickBooks will have just good enough shipping, just good enough inventory, maybe just good enough data capture, things like that. But as soon as you have extra needs, like you have an approver for the bill or you have some extra process, that's when you have to go out and find that next level app, right? But it's almost like the camera apps on the phone.
Yep.
They give you enough filters by default to give you that taste. But if you really need extra filters and you need to do a bunch of fancy stuff, you're going to go find another app that But you wouldn't know it's possible to do that stuff if you didn't get the taste by default.
Two more things they announced at XeroCon that are interesting to me is so now Xero Projects, it's their project management or module which is extra. That is now integrating with timesheets, so you can actually run payroll and have the project's data feed into timesheets. And lastly, and this is the most exciting thing to me, but it actually didn't make the ZDNet article, probably because it's so nerdy. It's that Xero is opening up their bank feeds API. So now anyone is going to be able to connect to Xero and push in bank feed information. You're not going to have to wait for Xero to work with a bank to create a feed. The bank can do it themselves.
Got it. So the banks can proactively, there's a set of standards now, and they can now connect the other direction.
Yeah. Well, and what's exciting about this too is that I'm thinking of applications for non-traditional payment services or non-traditional like banking type services. For instance, blockchain, right? A blockchain accounting application could now hook up to Xero's bank feed API and send in those transactions as if it's like a bank account for your blockchain wallet. And we don't have to wait for some bank to figure out how cryptocurrency works and do that for us. Like somebody could write that now. So potentially could accelerate the adoption or the ease of accounting for cryptocurrency, which might make businesses more willing to use it.
Yeah, I could see that also with smaller developers that are like startups, these teenier, either they're a credit card based company, they're providing some sort of prepaid credit card, or they're maybe even a startup bank. And to be honest, going the other direction, right? There's even, especially in the States, right? There's 20,000 banks.
Yeah.
Right. And financial institutions. And by the time somebody like Intuit gets down to the teeny little bank to integrate with their bank feed, it's just a long road, right? Versus the other way, like this could open up opportunities for smaller banks to get some traction with small businesses. It's interesting.
Yeah, and
to watch that.
Another one to think about is Venmo, right? Tons and tons of small business owners, service providers are now getting paid via Venmo by all of their customers. That's how my wife pays one of her fitness instructors, right? And so Venmo could build a connection to Xero to push transactions in via the bank feed. And it's not a bank, right? But it works like a bank account.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. No, it'll be interesting to really watch that. That'll be definitely something to see. Do they stick with it? Because building APIs is hard enough for your accounting system, right? Building APIs now for your bank feeds is a whole nother layer of complexity, because now it's a different customer base as well.
Yep.
Right, with different demands. And so it'll be interesting to see where that goes from a direction. Like, is this a direction where all these banks and the people who have the data are going to go out of their way to build tech stacks to shove data into accounting systems or not?
Yeah.
Like, I think this will be really interesting to watch over the next 18 months or so, I think.
So what's next?
I have remember a couple of weeks ago we were talking about there's risk in providing client advisory services.
Yes.
We brought that up.
Yeah. Well, so you're going to get, you provide more advisory services you provide, the more likely you are to get sued if that's bad advice.
Yeah. So I think it's actually a whole new layer of just providing any accounting services is risk if there's bad things happening. And an article I found is Kevin Garnett. He's a basketball player. I think he was on the Celtics. He's suing his accountant because he lost $77 million. His wealth manager basically stole $77 million from him. And he's suing his accountant, the accountant firm, Wertheim and Welkin CPAs, because they kind of turned a blind eye to it.
Yep.
Like, so the fact that they did not actively go out of their way to alert him of this, they're being sued. So they weren't even providing advising services. The fact that they just didn't advise at all put them at risk.
Well, and so I'm sure that the lawyers are now poring over those engagement letters to find out if the accounting firm disclaimed any liability, right, from providing that kind of assurance or that kind of internal control or risk management for Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch this one. It's I'm assuming accounting firms, right, are going to you're insured for these types of events.
Yeah.
But you start reading the article, and so it's almost implying that they may have even been in cahoots a little bit.
Right.
Like they worked in concert with him, but that's in speculation, and the lawyers will figure all that out. But the fact that not providing any advising service could actually still get you sued.
Yep.
you're kind of in a no-win situation here.
Yeah, it's tough.
Any other articles? Let's see. The top 100 most influential people in accounting list came out. I don't know if you saw that.
Paul Ryan makes the list. Donald Trump makes the list. If you're the CEO of a major software company, you probably made the list.
I think for me is I just scroll through it, and I haven't. It'd be interesting to like really run numbers, but it really speaks to the lack of diversity, right? It is a bunch of older white guys.
Well, hey, let's say
list,
congratulations to Jeannie Whitehouse for making the list, our podcast guest, and go check out her episode if you haven't listened to it. So for being one of the few women who made the list, congrats.
Joda Padar's on there. Yep. Who else is on here?
Oh, she's been on the podcast too. Sean Stein-Smith, who's in an upcoming episode, he made the, the runners-up list, which is nice because he's one of the younger folks, I think. Donnie Shimamoto, who also was on the podcast. Yeah,
it was interesting. I think they, which I don't feel like they've done in previous years when they introduced the list. There's a lot of framing around like the creation of the list this time. So they've been compiling it for 2 decades, and that there's all kinds of new areas of influence, and there's new influencers, right? And they're trying to balance all that out, and it's difficult, right? And they think that this might be the most influential ever, but they also can't put everybody on it. So it's I imagine it's not easy to make a list like this.
No, definitely a challenge, and but always fun to read it when it comes out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I quickly see. Obviously, you vanity scroll, you check for yourself, right, just in case, and then I looked for you because it is an alphabetical order, which made it very convenient to do that quickly on the phone. That's true.
And David, I don't know if our listeners are aware, but you've never made the top 100 list, but you have made that folks to watch list.
So. Yes, I did make that a couple of years back. Me and the Microsoft CEO,
So you're in good company.
Yeah, like he couldn't make the list either, so I didn't feel bad about that. I do have to commend Accounting Today though on like doing this just as one long web page, because a lot of times people do top 100 lists or they do top this, and they put each person as a separate page. You got to click. It's like a BuzzFeed article or something, just so they get like more clicks. And nobody has patience for that. So it's nice that, hey, this is all on one page. You can read the article. You can scroll through. You're not clicking and clicking because you lose interest. Like after like 10 in a row, you're not going to click to whoever's 97. Mm-hmm. But now you can just scroll through the list and see everybody at once. It's really, I have to commend Accounting Today for, making good judgment on behalf of the reader. So it's easy to read the article. It's not an SEO play.
Hey, well, I'm a little late with this article, but I thought I would shout it out because I'm always talking about the unemployment rate, the difficulty hiring accountants, all that good stuff. And the stat I've been using for a long time is from the first quarter. And I'm happy to report that now Robert Half is out with the accountant unemployment rate for Q2, or at least they were back in July. So it really hasn't changed that much. It's at 2% in the second quarter of 2018, still way lower than the 4% national unemployment rate. So accountants and auditors, 2% unemployment. If you're thinking about jumping ship and looking for a new job, probably a good time to do that. And by the way, if you're a financial manager, which it's a very broad category because this is based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they don't break down job titles more than that. But financial managers include controllers, CFOs, that sort of thing. People in a management role in accounting or finance. That unemployment rate is 0.8% in Q2. 0.8%. Might as well be nothing. So great outlook, job prospects for financial managers and their staff.
No, that's good. I can actually add on to that. There's an article I found about how blockchain is disrupting the enterprise finance and accounting departments. Mm-hmm. And it's some level of the article is a little bit high level about accounting about blockchain and how it's a little going, it's turning mainstream a little bit. But the real key is to tie it back to your article here is at the bottom. They're talking about candidates that show any cryptocurrency experience are 10% more likely to get a first round interview.
Really?
So it's time to, you probably need to get some crypto or blockchain experience, a training. I don't even know if you can get certification. You probably want to start having that in your resume. So yes, even though the job market is really in the favor of the job seekers right now, but to set you apart from other people that are probably searching, it's probably wise to try to get some sort of cryptocurrency or blockchain or
just know enough to be able to put it on your resume, right? Like your Excel skills.
Yes.
Wait, so what was the number you said?
they're extrapolating this a little bit from a different survey focused on e-trading execution.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen a shift there already where people that have some background in blockchain, cryptocurrency, et cetera, are 10% more likely to get a first round job interview.
So now I found it. So it says successful trading experience in cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin trading are 25% more likely to get a first round interview. That's what you said before.
25%.
25%, yeah.
Oh, so they have 2 paragraphs. Okay, got it. And then they have another paragraph that says the same thing, but with 10%.
Well, and there's another stat in this article. It's quite a long one that said that according to a recent survey, 50% of financial leaders say blockchain will be part of their business transactions in the next 5 years. 50% say blockchain will be part of their business transactions. So it will not only give you a 25% chance, 25% better chance of getting a first round interview, having experience in crypto, you'd better have that experience because, it might be part of your job in the next 5 years. Crazy.
So I think the start, and I mean, I've not done it yet either. I've been saying I'm going to do it. Maybe I'll try to do that is I guess just get $100 worth of Bitcoin, in a Bitcoin wallet, and then try to buy something on the internet with it and see how it goes. I guess that's
sign up for a Coinbase account. Send me some money, David.
Maybe we can do it that way. We'll create an account and people can give money to us.
Yeah, there you go. If you want to support the Cloud Accounting Podcast, send money to this Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah,
we'll try it. We'll see if anyone does it.
But yeah, so I think the takeaway here is yes. Blockchain is disrupting our world, right? Enterprise finance and accounting departments. But the real takeaway is you can differentiate yourself by just having a teeny bit of experience in this at this point. So everybody should go out and maybe this weekend create a blockchain wallet.
Sounds good. Well, David, that's all the time I've got for this week. If folks want to connect with you online, where's the best place for them to do that?
Twitter definitely is at David Leary. And I'm still using LinkedIn a little bit more, I've noticed. So on LinkedIn, I'm also David Leary.
Great. Yeah. Connect with me at Blake T. Oliver on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. Feel free to follow me or connect with me. And then you have you're still sending out your weekly newsletter. So those of you who haven't subscribed to that, they should subscribe to that. Yes. And by the way, that has changed slightly. So the title is, it used to be called Cloud Accounting Weekly. It's now going to be called Own Your Close, as in financial close. And that's my newsletter for management accountants. And so I personally am going to be focusing more of the pure cloud accounting nerd talk here on the podcast with you, David, because I'm having so much fun doing that. And it'll still be an element of the newsletter, but just one part of it, in addition to management, regulation, all the stuff that controllers and need to know, that sort of thing, but with not such a heavy focus. So I'm gonna save all my good stuff for you, David. I'm so honored. Hey, did everything settle down with your drama and the neighbor? Yeah, my neighbor's out on bail, and he's hanging out, and everything's back to normal. So, do you guys go to your back fence and talk to each other? Yeah, I checked in. Hey, howdy, neighbor. I checked in with him. It's been a great opportunity to get to know my neighbor a little bit better. Sometimes the FBI can bring communities together. On that note, we should close this down. That was beautiful. Well played. Bye, everybody. Bye, David.